3 years ago, almost to the day, I was fired from the best job that I had ever had up to that point, and it was actually like an amazing blessing in my life that it happened that way. Of course, I didn't totally get that at the time, although I did think that it was hopefully going to be a turning point. And thankfully, I had like the presence of mind to record my initial reaction, and I haven't rewatched it in a long time, at least like more than 2 years. And so now that I'm starting this new venture with here's two of my co-founders, Mike and Truman, I thought it would be fun to rewatch it for the first time and see just like how much pain I was in, how different things are from that point compared to right now. And they've never seen this either, and so just getting that first initial reaction to how things were 3 years ago, and I was probably at my lowest point at that time, and now I would say I don't want to say I'm peaking because it's just still going, but like life is really good, and a big part of it is these guys. Anyway, let's watch it.
All right, let's see. Time to cringe.
Oh, it's gonna be painful. I mean, before even starting it, I'm like, oh,
that frame.
Yeah, that
you're like about to sneeze.
Dude, the beard was long.
Yeah,
I'd grown it out for. So my brother wanted to have like a beard. He wanted to make one of those like sexy beard calendars. Mm-hmm. And so when COVID hit, we were like, okay, we got to do something. Being stuck at home, so we might as well grow our beards while we're doing whatever. And so this was like the longest that it got while I was still working, obviously. And I look at it now, I'm like, man, 3 years ago, but I look older. It's weird.
And this is pre-Guatemala?
Mm-hmm. This was like a month before I left.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Let's roll.
So, something interesting happened today. I was fired. So I was just in a place I shouldn't have been. That's the truth. This job had me like one step away from suicidal. I developed eye wrinkles. I looked older. I had constant headaches. Depressed out of my mind. I never thought I'd be depressed, but man, I've been like whatever one step above actually wanting to die is. That's where I've been. Like, I don't want to die because I know there's so much left to do and I'm in a bad place. But, like, this place that I'm in is bad news. I learned where I definitely don't fit. Do I know where I fit completely? No, not yet.
Bro, I forgot how sad I was.
I know, the instant energy is just like, bummer.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it through the screen.
Dude, it feels like a different person because,
yeah.
I mean, you guys know now I'm like pretty positive most of the time.
Yeah,
optimistic.
Yeah, you're really positive.
But that version of me was probably the worst version of me in terms of like, I felt like I got so little done, but I was so exhausted by every little thing. And I look so sad. I look crazy too, because my eyes are all red.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that I had gotten LASIK a few days before that.
Oh, okay.
They probably saw me walk into the office with red eyes and like, we gotta get rid of this loser. You
Like,
got this big old beard,
got
red
another
eyes.
zombie on Kensington Ave.
Oh, dude.
It's crazy though, because like, I feel like when you're in a position like this, I really resonate with you talking about being like one step away from dying. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in that place, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be thinking like that. Mm-hmm. But you just get thoughts that are like, you should stop. You should give up. What's the point? There's an easy way out.
Yeah.
And it's hard to deal with those thoughts alone. And a lot of people, I think, will start to identify with those thoughts and think that I am suicidal. Where it's like, in my experience, it's like I would have those thoughts and I'd have to intentionally remind myself that those thoughts are not me. Like that I don't have control of these thoughts coming in, but I have control of what I do next, you know?
Yeah.
Which is tough because like when you're in that moment, it feels like it just lasts forever. Like time is moving so slow. And then, but it's like next thing you know, you're in a different place. You know, next thing you know, it's 3 years later. This didn't last forever. Like a month after this, you went out to Guatemala.
Yeah.
And like like this ended up being like fuel that got you to here. You know, to where like this was a blessing that you got fired from my perspective. You know, because having you come on our team, working together, like has made things so much better for Temple Mill and now Viddy. But it's like when you're in that moment, it's like it feels like it lasts forever. It feels like you're the only one that feels that way. And it feels like it's almost like your mind is an echo chamber, and then once that thought enters in there, it just starts bouncing around.
Oh yeah.
And it just gets stuck in your mind. And yeah, that's where it's like so important to talk about it. And like even making a video like this, I think was really good for you to do, to vocalize those thoughts. Because when you don't vocalize, most people don't vocalize those thoughts. And you don't even need to vocalize those thoughts to like a therapist or whatever, but like even putting it on camera, hearing yourself speak it out loud can help you deal with those things. So I think it was really brave of you to, your instinct was, let's make a video. And I think it's also you making the best out of the moment, where you knew you were going to be able to look back at this as a low moment. And that's like the inspiring thing about being in a low moment. There's only one direction you can go.
Yeah.
You know, like things are going to get better from there. And it's also humbling when you're at a peak moment, that it's like, you know, you're not always going to be on top of the world, but you learn how to kind of sail those waves over time.
It's interesting because I've also made these types of videos at low points, but I've never thought about making videos to myself at high points, you know? Because it's like, in some way, you are recording this for your future self to watch back on, which we're doing right now.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to do it at a high point, talking to the person that, the future self that could be at a low point, you know? Like, because I feel like when you are in those points, you are like lacking perspective. Like this, it's like you're lacking perspective on where you're gonna go next. You know, like there's a dark period here. You're like kind of lost and confused. If you did a video speaking to yourself back then, you'd be like, yo, listen, dude, like you're gonna figure it out. You know, like, and that would have been nice to hear when you're in this point. You know, but also when you're at that high point, I feel like you do have we have a lot of pride when we're at the top. And like, I feel like it's good to kind of like record messages to different versions of yourself that are like, yo, I know things are going great right now. Like, I don't mean to like shit on the parade here, but like, just, you know, keep it chill, you know, don't like, you know, push people away because you're some hotshot, you know, like just like, you know,
don't get too materialistic or get too attached to like the physical things.
Yeah. I think that giving proper perspective to different areas or peaks and valleys is really good, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that episode in The Office when Michael Scott makes the happy one and the sad one. That's like one of my favorite episodes. Because maybe even in this video, at the end of the video, you could leave a message to yourself if you ever find yourself back at that.
Yeah.
Back at a low point. Yeah. That you could reflect on this and...
Even just like the kind of message that me 3 years ago needed to hear. Because, I mean, it was a dark time. I forgot. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say I forgot, but there were times I remember, like, I would get in my car and go, you know, COVID was still kind of around, so there wasn't a lot of stuff to do. But I'd get in my car and I'd go drive to grab a burrito or something. And, like, in the car, I'd be like, I could just go drive up to Squaw Peak and drive off the edge on purpose. But there was always like this feeling of like, nah, I'm being a little bit over dramatic. Like, you know, I was 27 years old and I was like, the thing that kept popping in my mind was I'm one big decision away from an entirely new life. I don't know who says that. Maybe it's probably some guru guy like Tony Robbins or something, but that was like the thing that stuck in my head. So I had even started planning the trip to Guatemala before they fired me. But I was like gonna quit because I knew that things were kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
And they beat me to the punch by like, I was gonna put in my 2 weeks the next Friday. So they beat me to it by 8 days, a week and a day. But it worked out because I wouldn't have gotten the severance payment that I got, and they paid out a bunch of sales commissions that were pending. So it worked out, but it was just crazy how the timing happened, and literally that was the only thing that kept me like surviving, was like, okay, I'm one decision away from a completely new life, and I was just holding on until it was time to make that decision.
Yeah.
And then the decision was made for me in the end. Well, I think we'll keep it going.
Yeah.
And I was just mired in some deep, dark voodoo. Something going on. And it feels really good to be released from that. Next steps. Moving to Guatemala. Gonna learn Spanish. We're heading out to Guate, man. We live in Shayla. Good old Quetzaltenango. Learn me some Espanol. And I'm gonna do what I really want to do and get to know other cultures and meet other people and learn languages, man. Gosh, that's the thing. Ever since I left Japan 4 years ago, I've just been wanting to do that again, but somewhere else. It's like, well, why in the world am I working, doing this stupid job, selling my soul, when I've already tasted who I want to be and where I want to go and what I want to do? So anyway.
That's a good point right there. Because I feel like once you like make decisions for yourself, like who you want to be and where you want to go, it like makes it harder to go against those decisions. You know, like as soon as you decided that you wanted to, you know, be a world traveler and explore cultures, it made your job that much more unbearable because it was not aligned with where you were supposed to be. And so, and even like once you notice, like once someone decides, then their next decisions start to come a lot faster. They start to get closer to where they're meant to be. Cause like, it's so crazy. Cause like, it's like one of my earliest memories with you, or it's not even an earliest, but it's like by the time we were already living in Utah, so we weren't in California, and you had to have been in either middle school or like early high school because you were taking a Spanish class.
Yeah.
I don't know what grade you were in, but like we were in the back of like your mom's minivan, and like you were teaching me Spanish. Like, and I was like writing notes. I don't know if you remember that, but like you were teaching me like the fundamentals of Spanish, and you were like 13, and I was like, you know, whatever, 10 years old or however old I was. And so it's like, I feel like you going to Guatemala was an essential part of your character development as a person, you know, like you, and same with Japan, and all of your travel experiences are like essential to get you to be who you are now. And even I think still continually traveling more in the future. But yeah, having that alignment, like it's so clear when you're looking back, like seeing how it all lined up to where you are now. But like when you're in that moment, it's like terrifying.
Yeah.
Like you'd never been to Guatemala before. Like, so it's a huge leap that you're taking. And I'm even curious of like, what helped you take that leap? Because I know like taking the leap is kind of the hardest part.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the hardest part of pursuing your dream, but it is a big part of pursuing your dream, whatever your dream is. Like taking that initial leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, Guatemala wasn't as hard because I'd done it in Japan. But the first time going to Japan, that's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life, because So it is like a little bit of background. I went on a mission for my church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when I was 19, and I went to Korea. And over there, I learned Korean. I absolutely loved the people. It was a great experience for my life. Met a lot of incredible people, learned a new language, experienced a new culture. And then I came home and I studied Korean as my degree in school, like at the university. And then I ran out of Korean classes, and I'd taken every single one that they offered, and I still had this insatiable hunger to learn more languages, and so I started taking Japanese classes. So I took a few of those, and then I just felt like I was gonna forget everything that I'd learned, and like that effort that I put into learning Japanese was all gonna be wasted if I didn't go to Japan. And I tried to get friends to go with me. I had multiple friends that knew Japanese already, who had lived in Japan at some point, who had in some way were connected to Japan, and none of them were willing to go. They all, like, whatever was going on, they had schedule conflicts, I don't know. And so I just booked the ticket, and it was a 90-day round trip, and I had a cousin living in Japan who was like, he's like a lot older than me, so we didn't really grow up together. Although we knew each other, but we weren't like, it wasn't like Mike where our ages are much closer and we hung out all the time. Like he was like more than 10 years older than me. And so I knew him, but we weren't super close. But other than going to see him for like 2 days in Tokyo, I had no plans for the next 88 days of the round trip. So it was terrifying. I remember sitting on the plane and what is this? I remember sitting on the plane and like I couldn't sleep on the plane because I was so nervous that I wouldn't know what to do when I got there, because I had 88 days of time to fill with no plan really. I had a loose idea. I had a friend that told me you could do this thing called woof, where you go live with a Japanese family and you work on their farm and they give you a bed and they feed you. And
is that Ryan from The Office's startup?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay, yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, except in this case, you're, instead of getting messages from all over the place, you're picking peaches and grapes and eating vegan food. So, anyway, that's the only thing I had in my back pocket was like I'd heard that you could go live with people that way, and I hadn't even like established a connection with anyone yet. And I just felt like if I didn't go, then I was going to be like squandering this one opportunity to travel, because I finished school and I hadn't started a new job yet, and I wanted to have like that deep, meaningful cultural experience. And so it was like I was so afraid and excited at the same time that I basically like I did all the research. I pulled up the plane tickets and I just like closed my eyes and hit pay and was like, hey, I can't go back now. And once I got like that train rolling, it was like a snowball downhill. It was like, well, I bought the tickets. They cost me hundreds of dollars. And as a student, I had not very much money. So I basically spent like half of all the money that I had on going there. And then I was on the ride and I just had to go. And so it was like I just had to push myself over that edge. And then we were going. And I ended up getting in contact with the first family that I stayed with while I was at my cousin's place. He let me like sleep over on his really small couch. I was sleeping like curled up like this, legs and head hanging off the bed, because he had this tiny little Japanese apartment.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you there for within?
I only slept over one night, I think.
Dang, and on that one night, you got the
maybe 2
family
nights.
to
Yeah. Oh, and I
the
messaged.
farm.
I spent hours sending messages to all these people, and most of them said they were all booked up. But thankfully, this one family, the Kazama family, they said, "Hey, we've got a spot," and I headed over there, and that was the beginning of like one of the best experiences of my life.
How far of a distance was it? Like, where did you like land in Tokyo? Or
I landed in the Narita airport, the same one we went to.
And how far away was the farm?
He lived in a small. It was a small town. The bigger town that's still not super huge, but the bigger town that was nearby his little small town, because it's like just farmers.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger town was named Kofu, which is I think it's in Yamanashi. But it was really cool because we were lucky to have really good weather most of the time that I was there, and you could actually see Mount Fuji from the peach orchard where we'd work every day. So
that's cool.
I'm like pruning the trees and like doing all these things, watering stuff and all this different stuff, and like Mount Fuji's in the background the whole time. And I felt like I was, you know, a anime character because even though I never really watched anime up to that point, I felt like I was an anime character.
So how far away, like travel time, was it to get there?
It's probably an hour by the train, by the Shinkansen, and then they picked me up at a station and we drove another 20-30 minutes to their farm in one of those little tiny K trucks.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think that's how you say it. I didn't know what they were called. I just knew they were a truck. And he picked me up, and this dude spoke no English, and my Japanese was really bad. But he was like, "Oh, Kensington," and I was like, "Motoki," and he was like, "Hai, ikimasu," and I was like, "Okay." I just got in this dude's little truck, and he drove me to his house, and he pointed at the bed, and he said, "Oh, for you," and then he pointed at the table, and he said, "Ito," and then the next morning he came up and he woke me up, and he just went like this. Well, actually, he went like this because it's rude to do this, but I think it was more like this. And I just followed him around all day, and he told me the words for things. He's like, "Oh, peach is momo," and whatever. The field is hatake. So slowly, I was like learning all these new words, and I just lived.
That's cool.
It was crazy. It was really crazy. And by the time I left there, we could have like conversations.
That's wild.
Very like, you know, grammatically, I was probably totally bad, and my pronunciation was probably horrendous, but we'd sit at the dinner table and talk for like 2 hours every night, and a lot of that time was, you know, looking up words and just trying to describe things in weird ways. And I showed them s'mores for the first time. We made them in a toaster oven because they didn't have any open flames, and yeah, it was just a crazy experience that turned out to be not nearly as scary or terrifying or difficult as I ever expected.
I feel like the hardest part is the leap.
Oh yeah.
But
it's like once you take it, then it starts to get better.
Yeah, it's like, imagine like when you're a kid and you're like jumping off like you're cliff diving or you're jumping off a high diving board or something, like that anxiety of like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and then you like get to the edge and you're like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and that's crazy, and like you like
build up
this tension and release of like build up, I don't know, and then eventually you get to a point where you're like, screw it, I'm gonna do it. But like right when you jump off, it's like all that tension, like, you know, like the second your feet jump off, you don't really feel a ton of anxiety, you know, because it's like it's in motion. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, but like the build up is the part that's like the scariest, you know?
Oh yeah, and that was, I mean, it actually makes me think of the largest regret in my whole life was not jumping sooner to Guatemala, because 6 months before this video, I'd been considering quitting, and I just had some like really candid conversations with my boss, and because I was in sales and then my pipeline got like obliterated by COVID, and instead of taking advantage of like that situation to set my pipeline up for the future, I just was like really focused on trying to hold on to the people in the pipeline already. I just didn't manage like my efforts properly. I wasn't not working, but I just focused on the wrong things. And so now looking back on it from like a sales perspective, like I totally made the wrong choice of trying to focus on the people who were already on the table rather than trying to go get new ones. Because it was a black swan event, it would have made more sense to find new people. But
What do you mean by black swan event?
meaning it was something that like had never happened in history.
Oh, like COVID was a black swan event?
Yeah, and
I
so
see.
it would have made more sense to go find new people that now make sense in the new world rather than try and hold on people that. Because I've had a bunch of clients that were like, they had contract. In fact, some had signed contracts, but then when COVID hit, they didn't pay, and so, and then they just went into reactive mode. They just went into reactive mode and like shut down, stopped making any purchases.
Yeah.
And so my main focus was on trying to like bring them back to the table and close it rather than trying to find new leads, which now I think about it, I'm like, dude, that it was so obvious that I should have just doubled down on prospecting and finding new people. But anyway, that had led to like me getting tired of the sales. And so I was considering quitting my job and going to Guatemala, and I'd even talked with my little brother Jesse, and he was going to go with me to Guatemala. It was going to be the two of us, and Jake that ended up going with me, he was going to come too. So the three of us were all going to go to Guatemala together, and it would have been like an amazing like brotherly experience to do that in a new country, both learning a new language, exploring a new place. But when like the day came to like make the decision, my boss basically offered me the chance to switch roles, which came with a higher base salary, but then I still got to keep all of like my pending deals, and so I was going to make a lot more money in the short term, and so instead of like taking the leap to go to Guatemala with my brother and one of my closest friends, I took this job that even at the time I knew was just like delaying the inevitable. And thankfully I still got to go to Guatemala later, but by the time I left, Jesse had met his now wife, and you know, things were starting to roll, and so he didn't want to leave. And so we missed that window. You know, we're never going to be able to have that experience of two single brothers in our 20s going to a foreign country, learning another language together, because I didn't take the leap soon enough. And you know, you look at life and you're like, things are going to work out in the long run anyway. But that's like one of the very few large regrets that I have, because that experience is just not recapturable. It's just,
Yeah.
it was on the table. He was ready to go. Jake and Jesse were both like, dude, it's up to you. If you say yes, we leave next week. And I made the wrong choice. And I made a choice that permanently affected my brother. Thankfully, like, we're super close, and we're gonna have many more.
Yeah, I think it all worked out, and honestly, you guys going single versus going in relationships, I don't think would have been very different. Like, I don't think you guys would have been, you know, going out picking up shotties or whatever.
No.
You probably would have still done the same thing that you would do if you were in relationships.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely going to be more opportunities, but it does change now that he's got a kid.
Yeah,
and
he's got a kid
married
now.
and jobs and whatnot. You know, life does like sneak up on you.
Mm-hmm. It's like, when are we both gonna have a 3-month span that
Yeah.
we can just dip to another country and
Yeah.
have no responsibilities? Like, it's just not gonna happen. But that's okay. Like, it didn't hurt our relationship in any way. It's just, it would have been a really cool add to it, you know?
For sure. So if you're speaking to you in the future that's at a low point, let's say the rug got pulled out from under you, you're flew back and you're laying on your back after just getting rocked.
Yeah.
Which I love your friend Mike Rife's video that he posted today or a couple days ago that was talking about like you can have all the plans you want until you get punched in the face. Because I can relate with that so much, because you never expect to get punched in the face, and that is the reality of life, is that you will get metaphorical punches to the face, and so how you respond to that and how you react to it. So yeah, I'm curious, what would you say to your future self who is like just been punched in the face harder than you've ever been?
You know, I think I did it the right way initially this time where I captured my like thoughts. I addressed them really directly. So in this video, like I didn't pull any punches. You know, I was saying exactly how I felt, and then I was really real with myself of like, you know, like the situation sucked, and there may be things that I can put blame on, but I also felt very responsible as well. Like I didn't take the mindset of like it just happened to me. Obviously, there was a degree of that at the time, and now I look at it and I like take 100% responsibility. I don't blame any of my like coworkers or the company. In fact, I'm really thankful for that experience because I met some awesome people, and it really was a great place to work. I just no longer fit there, and so I guess if I was going to boil it down, I'd say first say everything in a 100% truthful way. Acknowledge all of the pain and all of the difficulty and all of the mistakes, all of the responsibility, and I think that acknowledging everything like is really important because you can't move forward if you don't acknowledge it. And then this was something that took much longer, and I had to then forgive myself for the things that I was taking responsibility for, and then I had to actually grow and change to be stronger in the ways that I failed before. And so a lot of that actually came much later. That was, even in Guatemala, I was still not recovered from like the shell shock of this whole experience because it's been going on. It's just been getting progressively worse since, dude, these things keep popping up.
I've never seen this happen.
Do the hearts?
Yeah.
No, it's not doing it.
I don't know.
It's not as good.
There you go. But anyway, it's just been getting progressively worse for like over a year. So, and then the biggest problem that I had after like forgiving myself was I didn't start doing something meaningful soon enough. You know, like when I joined Temple Mill with you guys, that was like I waited too long to do something like that. And so, you know, I would say acknowledge like truthfully everything painful, forgive yourself for it, try to grow, and then jump into the next new thing that gets you excited as soon as you possibly can. Because similar to like a bad breakup, if you just sit around thinking about the breakup, you're gonna just stew over the person. Yeah.
I think that there's also like an element, I don't know if this is super relatable to you in this context because you didn't really want to go back to that job, but like in terms of a breakup for me, like there's that period of like trying to get it back too, you know, and you're like in this low point and you're like trying to like hold on to what that relationship was. But if I could go back and tell myself something, I'd be like, there's a million other fish in the sea, and immediately when they break up with you, do what you gotta do, you know, cry about it, but like go on another date.
Yeah.
Like go find, I mean, it's like, I wouldn't say go on another date because I feel like I found myself by being single. Like a lot of the person I am today is because of that time period of being single and going out to New York and all that stuff. Like I wasn't searching for a relationship. So I would say if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. But like the sooner you can just cut ties with that, the better, you know, because a lot of the healing for me occurred when I was like, all right, this isn't going to happen. Like this relationship's not coming back. And once you make that mental click of like, you're not getting it back, you kind of are just like, okay, I'm either going to like intentionally keep feeling this way, or I'm going to change. Like those are the two options. You're not like getting any benefit anymore by feeling that way, and you're not going to get that person back. So you're just wasting time feeling that way. So it's like, it's like, I like that advice of like, when something bad happens, try to just move on.
Yeah.
And that's like really hard advice to give to someone. That's because I hated like hearing that type of advice. Very few people have ever said that to me directly. Although, quick tangent, when I went to when I first met Brian Donovan, he was seeing like a psychic. Like he had a relationship with this like spiritual, like you would really like him, Mike. He was like, he wasn't like he was really dialed in, and like we would meet up with him like once a month, and to a coffee shop, and he would bring like stacks of books of like all of this astrology and all this stuff, and like charts. Whoa. And like moons and Saturn and all this stuff, and like it was extensive, and like he was like, Brian was just asking him, like Brian would like talk to this guy about where Brian is in his life right now. This is what I'm feeling, and the dude would just be like sipping his espresso and be like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And he'd just be like, the reason why that's happening is most likely because in your chart, Saturn's here, blah, blah, and like just would say all this stuff. But then like we got on this topic of me because I was like there with him, and I just was going through that breakup, and I was like,
he was picking up on your energy.
Yeah, and I was just like asking him about the relationship, and I was, because I don't know, it was kind of just like we were just talking about random stuff, and I was just like kind of like, is there, like, this is what I'm going through, like I'm going through this like breakup, I feel like there's still something there, like blah blah blah. And he was just like still again just like sipping his coffee. He was like, dude, it's over, move on. Like just said it so directly.
I don't even need to flip to a page for
this. Like he was like just like, yeah, it was just like the beauty of a stranger like that was in that position just telling me like, dude, like give it up, you know, like just move on.
And did you like, resist that at the time?
No,
or
it was
by that point you were like, okay, I think, because you
already
moved to New Jersey.
I was still trying to hold on to it, but
yeah.
When he said that, it was just kind of like all right, I guess you're right, you know, like it was just like immediately in that moment, it was like someone just like calling you out on something, like just being like, dude, no one, like, it's like just like a stranger just being like, dude, no one is buying it anymore. Like just like someone calling you so aggressively on like your, you know, and just like you were just like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then like from that moment on, I was like, all right, that's it, you know. But it was just sometimes you gotta have someone just like call it out. Mm-hmm. Well, like that isn't in your inner circle.
I've been thinking of this message a little bit of that I feel like relates with that. It's like, yeah, don't give up, but give in. Giving in and giving up are two different things. And like you shouldn't give up, you know, but you should give in, which I feel like is when you're resisting a truth and then you accept it, you know, like you accept that it's over. That's like you giving in. But it doesn't mean that you're giving up. You're actually getting closer to your true life partner, you know, that was nowhere near Pennsylvania or New Jersey at the time, but you had no idea. And so, but you had to give in to like release that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really powerful message.
Yeah. And I actually had a friend that I reconnected with who's one of my best friends from high school, and just hadn't seen each other in a while. He was married, and he was doing all these cool things. He had a big business that was going really well, and we just ran into each other at the gym, and we were just catching up over lunch or something. And I was just telling him about like life, and this was like a couple months before we all went to Vegas for my first Temple Mill experience. And he was just like, dude, what are you doing with your time? Like, yeah, I was kind of working on some things, but he was like, you need to do something for real. Like, man is not meant to not work on something meaningful. Like, you gotta go make things happen. You can't just be having fun all the time. Like, your Guatemala trip is over. Like, go make it happen. And I was like thankful for his directness, because he's a friend who's always been like that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was like angry because I was like, I'm trying to do it, you know. Yeah. But I look at it now, I'm like, he was so right. And thankfully, like a month later, we went to Vegas, and that was like when I first was like, okay, not only have I like seen that I think entrepreneurship is the lane, but there may even be something with these guys because I had a really great time on that trip. I loved just the learning environment and like seeing all these. It was a mastermind, so everybody was there was like everybody there. Yeah, every single person was so impressive. Like they were just getting after life in every way. I was like, that's where I got to be. And then, you know, like a month or two, I don't remember how long it was later, it was when I joined with you guys, and it was like that dude said that to me, and it was like things just started moving all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that little swift kick in the pants, as your dad would like to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta stop being soft, stop being a baby, and admit that you've been soft and move forward. And for a long time, I was in like this frozen whiplash stage after being fired, and it was almost like I needed another smack in the face to get over it. It's like sometimes you get hit in the mouth, but sometimes you need a second punch in the mouth to react, you know. Like you get dazed, and then something else hits you, and you snap back into paying attention. Well, should we finish it?
Yeah, I think that's a good note to wrap it up on.
On to the next adventure. Stay tuned.
There you go.
The next adventure.
It was pretty much wrapped. Yeah, that was a...
So now the next adventure is like back in tech.
Mm-hmm.
You're making content.
Yeah, 3 years later, back in tech, making content, trying to build Viddy, which is not just a software, but it is also going to be a community. And, and that's what excites me the most about it, is because some of the people that I respect and look up to the most are people who make meaningful content, and I've never felt like worthy of being a creator. Like every human has some level of natural creative tendencies, and I feel like most of my life I've like pushed those down, and so I never felt worthy to be a creator because I spent so much time pushing those down. But now I'm like, I don't need to waste my time trying to compare how creative I am to other people. I just need to do what's meant for me, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, because like the greatest version of myself is going to be a blessing and a help to all the people that surround me. And so now's the time, you know. That adventure at the time was going to Guatemala, and then there was a period where Temple Mill was the adventure, and now we're transitioning to Viddy being the adventure. And honestly, with all the, like, you could tell that I was really passionate in this video about learning languages and experiencing cultures, and I still am. And as passionate as I am for experiencing other cultures and learning languages, the new passion that I've found in being an entrepreneur and trying to grow a business, it dwarfs that passion by a lot. And I thought that was the peak of my human experience, was living in another country and learning a new language. But in all reality, I've found out that building a business and trying to be a real entrepreneur and be successful, and I don't mean in the monetary ways, I mean in like the personal growth ways. Of course the money will come and be a part of it, but I see it as more of a side effect. That gets me more excited and makes me more fulfilled than anything else I've ever done in my life. And I feel like I'm almost 31 now, and the past 30 years there's been a question that has been lingering in the back of my mind, and it was finally answered when I joined Temple Mill and we started trying to make things happen. And it hasn't been like a smooth ride, you know, like we're transitioning from Temple Mill to Viddy for a reason. But still, that bumpy ride has been the best ride of my life. And like, I can't wait to see where it takes me. And I'm not even that like attached to any outcomes necessarily. It's all about making the most of myself and my life. And so that is the next adventure, and we're on that ride right now. So.
And we're on the right ride.
Yeah.
You know, like something my dad told me is the person that loves to walk is going to get there 100% of the time. The person that loves the destination might only get there 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And so that's also why it's so important to be on a walk that we enjoy, you know, because even walking the walk of being an entrepreneur is one thing, but you could be walking that walk in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this new path that we're on is really exciting to me because we did walk down the agency path for 6 years. And we got pretty far down that path and we learned a lot of things and that opened our eyes to, okay, maybe let's turn around, let's walk back that way actually, let's swap onto this other trail, and it's actually going to get us to the top of the mountain a lot faster, you know, and in a lot more sustainable way where it's like, it's not this hike where we're dragging our heels and we're like, are we there yet? Yeah. But it's like, you know, we're singing songs, we're dancing in the rain. Like, can't remember who, it was Gordon Ramsay that was like, you know, he's like, learn how to dance in the rain. Yeah. You know, it's gonna rain and there's gonna be all these struggles and trials throughout your entire journey, and learning how to dance through the rain. And that attitude of dancing through life has really resonated with me because, you know, when you look at a pro dancer, it's not just all fun and games. No. You know, they work hard and they love it and they are passionate about it, but they have fun doing it too. And so, and it takes away that seriousness to where, like in our conversation earlier, like I resonate so hard with just getting really serious. And the biggest like tip on that my therapist gave me was like, use humor as a tool. You're like sleeping on humor, dog. You're mad funny, homie. So why are you serious all the time? Because I go through waves where I'm like, when I feel like I'm being too goofy, like making joke songs or whatever, I'm like, I need to be serious. I need to show people that this isn't just a game for me, you know, which is important to have like with business. We're not just trying to do something small here. Like, this is serious. But then once you swing the pendulum to the serious side of things, you're like, all right, I need to start swinging back a little bit and like bring humor back into the equation because, you know, humans are like dramatic. Yeah. At least me as a human can be dramatic where like the highs are really high and the lows can be really low. But yeah, if I'm talking to my past self that's in that place, I'm just saying, get outside for one.
Touch grass.
Go touch grass. Go point your butthole at the sun for 10 minutes. and like go hit up a homie. Like just go for a hike, go get your mind off of things, and like having those people that you can trust and be vulnerable with. And even doing this video is like initiation for you as a creator because this is really vulnerable. Like, it's so hard to just sit in front of a camera. Yet alone sitting in front of a camera and reacting to you at your lowest point is really hard to do. And to push the upload button, to post that out there. But the fact that you're willing to do this, it's like, all right, it's proving to the audience that you're like willing to be vulnerable and that you're going to be honest with them. And so I think people are going to relate with this. And I even think that this kind of format would be great for your page of like, it's almost like a podcast, but you're hosting a podcast where you just sit down one-on-one with someone, or it could be two people, and you don't have to always be reacting to a piece of content. But I think having like a discussion like this is where like you really excel at like talking on the spot, like talking impromptu in the moment, having conversations. Like, even it'd be sick to just have you interview me sometime, see you interview Truman, see you interview, like, I could totally see you having a series around talking to people like this. But mad props, because like this is hard, you know? Like,
it's a tough video
just getting in front of the camera is hard. So I'm proud of you for just getting to this point and being willing to, you know, do this.
Yeah, well, you know, even while we had been working together with Temple Mill, I always was like, you guys are the creatives, I'm the sales guy, or I don't even know. I always threw different labels around, but it's time for me to own that label as a creator also. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just hard to
Let's do
compare
it.
you to us because like the term of creator is just so broad where it's like Alex Hormozy is a creator, but he doesn't know even how to turn a camera on.
Yeah, I think
Well,
not all creators are
it's
creative.
Like, we are creative creators. We're kind of like
A subset of creators.
yeah, like we're the ones that can make a sick like B-roll edit and all that stuff. But it's like most creators online are probably not that. You know, they're like regular people that have a camera. You know, and I feel like identifying more with that type of person will help you than comparing yourself to us. You know.
yeah, for sure. And I think it's just no two people are gonna have the same style in everything. And you know, lately I've been having like, there's a lot of people who say like don't use labels for yourself, and I have lately been like deliberately using positive labels and trying to throw away the negative labels. And so I see creator as a positive label that I'm going to attempt to use as something to build myself. So this is like, you know, I've made some videos before, but this is definitely the most vulnerable that I've ever been. I mean, we watched a video of like the worst moment of my life, basically. And so I don't know if I'll be able to be at this level of intensity in terms of like poignant moments.
I think you will.
But
because it's like a muscle, you know?
yeah,
Like it gets easier to be more vulnerable the more vulnerable you're being. You know? So
Yeah.
I can see, you know, after a year of making videos like this, you're gonna be so much better at talking on camera, so much more clear with the ideas that you want to communicate, so much more open to conversations that you might not be open to having right now. You know, so, and at least that's been my experience, is just like going to the gym. You know, like you don't just like right off the bat try and bench 500.
yeah,
Which is like the equivalent of making like a Matt Diavella video.
on day one.
It's like benching 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh yeah, well appreciate you having this idea for this video and leading this discussion. So where can they follow you?
At Kensington Roads on everything. Roads is ROADS.
And what about your startup that you're working on?
Oh yeah, it's called Viddy Studio. So at Viddy Studio or viddystudio.com, or is there anywhere else? I think that's everywhere.
Yeah, we're gonna be ripping content, not trying to freaking sell to you guys, but trying to make like valuable content, building a community.
Yeah.
So
The point of the
exciting.
content is to be valuable to creators. So
So you're gonna want to follow. It's not gonna be like another video post.
no, it's
Hopefully.
not going to be a bunch of TikTok shop eligible for commission type of things.
Yeah.
It's going to be, the purpose is to give value to people like us. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah. Fire.
All right.